The Democratic Party exists for the American people.
We're a nation of dreamers.
Making their voices heard.
You feel liberated.
It expands the limits of what's possible.
We have not come to the end of our fight.
The United Democratic Party is our greatest strength.
We have the right policies. We can change the world.
This is a moment for activism.
Get out there and fight.
Hey, welcome. And welcome to Democrats Live. This is the show coming straight to you from the DNC Democratic National Committee headquarters. And tonight we have right here on Election Day none other than Congresswoman Maxine Waters. And we also have our fearless leader, Jess O'Connell, CEO of the Democratic National Committee. Thank you all for being here today. We want everybody's out here, they're voting, it's election day. In my opinion, this is sort of a sacred day. Absolutely. How we get in there and do democracy. This is what it's all about. What's at stake, Congresswoman?
You know, Keith, we have so much at stake, but I am so excited about what I believe is going to happen.
Oh, come on.
I think that because of the state of things and, you know, what has been happening in the White House and with this cabinet, that people are fired up because now they know the difference between what good leadership is and what the leadership is that's not there for all of the people. So I believe people are going to turn out, and I think Democrats are going to turn out. I think that we have more people engaged perhaps in getting people out to vote than maybe we've had in some of our other races. It's not simply that individuals are going to go vote. They are calling their church members, they're contacting their sororities and fraternities, and they're letting people know we've got a lot at stake here. We're looking at whether or not we're going to have good tax reform and protect the middle class, or whether or not we're going to end up with a Republican bill that's going to take care of the richest 1% in this country.
Sure.
We have fought so hard for the ACA and for health care for everybody, and we've been winning on these issues. And so I think people know the difference now, and I believe we're going to have a good turnout.
And I think you're right. And you know, just on that same score, you know, there's a lot at stake right there in Virginia. On the one hand, you got Ed Gillespie, who's going in against immigrant communities, whipping up, he's embracing these Confederate monuments. And on the other hand, you got Ralph Northam, who's, you know, fighting for the middle class and an inclusive Virginia. Do you see that happening at the local level?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have races at every single level today. So we need people out voting, asking their friends to vote, getting out there, because we've got races everywhere. In Virginia, which you guys were mentioning, that's a big contest for us. That's a big contest that everybody's watching right now. It's going to be close. Virginia's always close. It's one of those states that goes back and forth. So this is a place where every single vote's going to matter. So you got to get out there. Polls close at 7 p.m. You got to get out there all the way up to the end. But you've got Ralph Northam running for governor on the Democratic side. You've got Justin Fairfax at lieutenant governor.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. Justin Fairfax is doing great. You've got Mark Herring, and then you've got this crazy amount of Democrats throughout the state. You've got 87 Democrats that are running. You've got 50 challengers. Over half of them are women, which I'm glad to see.
That's all right. That's all right.
Half of them are women. And I know we've got some in there. We got some here in the audience today. We got about 11 millennials that are running for office right now in Virginia.
How about that?
5 LGBT. So people are fired up. They're fired up for the reasons that you were talking about, Congresswoman. And so Virginia's really important, but we've got, you know, up and down the ticket, but we've got races in New Jersey as well. We've got a gubernatorial race there. The DNC has invested both in Virginia and in New Jersey. We've got 3 seats we can flip, and we can also win the governorship there as well, and elect Sheila Oliver, too, lieutenant governor. African-American woman Sheila Oliver, which should be incredible. And then we've got some state senate races. We got Washington State. We've got a woman running there that would flip the Senate if we win. That's Washington 45. And then we got a bunch of mayors that we've been running program. And the DNC has invested not just in the races all the way at the top, not just the presidency, but we're actually participating in mayor's races too. So we're in North Carolina for Vi. We're in
Vi Lyles.
Charlotte.
And Raleigh.
Exactly. And we've got Joyce Craig up in New Hampshire. New Hampshire's kind of on a winning streak right now. They've won 6 of 6 contests already since Trump was elected.
That's all right.
So we're playing everywhere that we can play, And I agree, everybody
Yes.
is engaged and fired up for all the reasons that you're talking about, and the DNC is right there with them, along with our partners. Everybody, like you said, there's more people involved than ever before,
involved.
and we're working with them.
Congresswoman, you used to be, oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I just want to say that we have some of the strongest candidates
Yeah, we
that
do.
we have ever had. And our candidates come with commitment, with background, with experience, and so that's going to help us to get people out. Yes.
But you were a state legislator in
Yes.
California.
Yes.
How important is it for us to win these state legislatures?
Oh,
back?
it's so very important. You know, you and I working on the federal level, and as you know, in our committee, financial services that we
right.
do, we're oftentimes confronted with questions about whether or not the feds are going to prevail on some public policy,
Yeah.
or whether or not the states, whether or not we're going to preempt the states, or whether or not the states have good policies. And so what we find is we have some states who have done great progressive work, who have great policies on many of the issues, particularly related to financial services. And so because of that, we have examples of what is good and how we can talk about what is needed for the other states who have not gotten that kind of leadership. I cut my teeth in the state legislature.
Yes, you did.
And I want to tell you, it's the kind of work that gives you the opportunity to spend time on issues, to get issues heard, to get issues debated, even better than at the national level. So I think it's very important for us to not only support, inspire, engage our states, because I want to tell you, that is what makes the difference of whether or not we have the kind of elected officials who not only serve the states well, but that will be coming to the Congress of
Yeah,
the
it's a
United States.
pipeline.
This is the pipeline.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of that training takes place, yes.
Well, if you have same-day voter registration like
Yes.
you do in Minnesota, it's
Yes.
because the state says so.
That's right.
If you got a restrictive felon ID like they do in Florida, it's because the
That's
state
right.
says so.
That's right.
So much of our voting rights have
That's
to do
right.
with the state. We've got to win at the state level.
That's right.
We do. I mean, I think you're talking about the new DNC here. I'm listening to you guys talk about how important it is to operate at the state level, and that's really what we're doing. We made a massive investment early on in the states. We've increased the amount that we are giving to the states by 33% so that they can build, so that they can organize 365 days a year, not just a couple weeks out from election.
Right.
You guys know what that's like, people coming in at the very end there. But so that we can be there on the ground, organizing, having conversations. And that's the work. It's every zip code counts. We're not going to leave anyone behind. We're going
right.
to have conversations in every community, and we're not going to stop organizing. There are no more off years. We have elections every single year that we've got to win.
Well, I think that's one of the greatest concepts that's been adopted by the DNC, that you're going to get into the states and you're going to give them some assistance.
That's right.
And you're going to be there to help develop. I like that, and I like the fact, Jess, that you're leading this.
Absolutely. Jess brings a lot of experience from
She
Emily's
brings a
list.
lot of experience, and I want to tell you, even back in the day when I first got elected, I had the support of Emily's List.
All right.
And because
All
of
right.
Emily's List, we've been able to elect women and start to close that gap over the years. And you have the background, you have the experience, you know how to get this done.
Thank you.
And with all of this inspiration we have out here with our millennials who are running, I was in Detroit at the Women's March. And I want to tell you, there were 4,000 women out there,
Yes.
fired up, ready
Fired
to
up.
go.
Yes.
We
You
gotta
fired
help
them
them.
up. You fired them
I
up.
hope so. I hope so. I hope so.
Well, Congresswoman,
Yeah.
we do live in a time where if you look at the news, you hear all of these stories of women who've just been trying to work on the job.
Yes.
And they've had these predatory men trying to take advantage of them. Now you
sure.
hear people really telling that
Sure,
story.
sure.
Is getting involved in politics right now a good way to push back on this misogyny? I mean, and you will never forget, nor will I, that the president he's the number
right.
one guy,
That's right. That's
Before
right.
we was talking about anybody else,
That's
he
right.
was the one bragging about it. We all heard it. Is this a way to resist?
Oh, I think absolutely so. And many women, whether it's in entertainment or other sectors of our society, they've felt alone. And in the entertainment industry, that's kind of the way it is. The casting couch has
we
been
heard
talked about for years,
wrong.
but there was no support for these women to come forward. And it's very important for politicians and elected officials to be involved in this issue, to talk about public policy and to talk about how we can be involved in the kind of training. All of our staffs, everybody must go through training dealing with sexual harassment, etc. And this is empowering women. And so, yes, I think that politics, government, has a role to play in all of this, and we've got to be there for women who have been quiet for so long, who never thought that they could tell their story, who never thought they could really get the support from their government, and now things are beginning to happen. And I'm very, very thrilled seeing young women coming out and saying, "Let me tell you what happened to me."
Right.
These stories are absolutely heartbreaking.
And if it happened to some of these stars that we see on television,
Yes.
what if you are just like a crew chief at a fast food restaurant, and your manager's like, "Yeah, you can get a raise if you're nice to me," quote unquote. I mean, this must happen to people all over this country, and now we're hearing about this, and this is a moment to fight back.
It's more common than perhaps people have thought about
Right.
it being that common. Yes,
I think
it's very
women know
common.
it's common.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
women have known.
That's right. That's right. But but I will say that men need to join women in this fight. You know what I mean? It's absolutely. We cannot let our sisters fight this battle alone.
absolutely.
We've got to hold these people accountable, and
That's right.
they can't be allowed to. But when more women are in office, that's when you're gonna get
That's right.
a sexual harassment law that's strong and has
That's
teeth
right.
in it.
That's
So that's why it's so important. The representation results in better legislation.
Oh, absolutely. I can remember being in the state legislature when women had, operations for breast cancer.
Sure.
And it was considered, the insurance companies did not have to pay for the buildup after mastectomies.
Wow.
Because it was considered cosmetic surgery, remember back then? And so I remember when I went to the legislature, one of the men told me about his wife who had had the operation. And he said, something needs to be done, but I don't feel comfortable. This was his wife. I don't feel comfortable doing. Would you take this legislation and say, "Give it to me"? Absolutely.
Right.
Passed the bill in the California State Legislature to cause insurance companies to have to pay for the buildup after mastectomies.
Sure.
And of course, it went around the country. And yes, women paying attention to issues we know are important to us and our quality of life, we will carry forth with those issues, and it will help change much of what has happened in our society.
Absolutely.
That has
That's
not been
why we got to do it.
That's the difference that women can make. I think the diverse experiences, the unique
Yes.
experiences that you bring to this,
Yes.
it makes a huge difference. And as you know all too well, because you're living it, women are still only 20% of Congress, and it's
Yeah.
about the same at the state and local level. And part of that reason is that it's so low is because it's only the Democrats that are even trying to elect women.
Right. Well, another problem I think is that when there's so much money in politics, and it is so expensive to run.
Yeah.
That serves as a barrier to a lot of women and communities of color and even working class white men. And if we can break some of these barriers down, we can get more of a diverse group representing us all over the country.
Yeah, well, I think this moment is really a movement that's building, not just the DNC that's participating at all levels again, which I think will make a difference in that.
Sure.
But all of the groups that we talked about, Emily's List and Emerge, they're
Indivisible.
seeing Indivisible, Swing Left, all of these groups that have formed both after Trump was elected, but also have been around a long time,
Sure,
doing
some
really
been around.
important building and work. We're all linking arms together and moving forward in this, and that's what's going to make the difference. And that's why I think today, on a day like Election Day, why it's so
Election
important,
Day.
because I think we're going to see that that energy, that resistance, that organizing, that mobilizing that we've been doing. Really, you started it with Resistance Summer.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Resistance Summer was backed up fully by our chair, Tom Perez, and you, Jess. And we talked to over 1.1 million people.
Wow.
We reached out to that many people this summer. We talked to about 20% of those. And all over this country, we had days of action.
Yes.
And we really kind of said, hey, look, this is who we
Yes.
are. This is what we do.
That's right.
And it's not just something we're going to do and then let go.
Yes.
The DNC has made major historic investments with our state parties. like a 33.
33% increase
That's
in the monthly
important.
amount. But
Yes.
also, we're offering up a $10 million innovation grant because we know that not every state's the same. I mean, I
Right.
think one of the challenges we've had in the past is we treat every state the same. You know, California is not the same as North Dakota,
Not at
and they've
all.
got different issues and
Yeah.
different ways that they handle things. And so we want to make sure that we offer up money for the states in ways that they need, that we work together around organizing, making sure that we're having conversations in rural communities, that we're bringing young people into the process, and that we're making sure we're firing up our base still. And that's different by different states.
It's so important. And, you know, when you mention rural communities and our small towns, we have not shared with them the public policy that has benefited them. And so they don't know where the money from their clinics come from, et cetera. We've got to talk with people
That's right.
in these communities, let them know who's working for and them and with them. And I think this is going to help us to get the kind of support, and they will not be at the mercy of some of these radio talk shows
Right.
that tell them differently, that we can help educate and give additional support.
And that's why we
Yeah.
do Democrats Live. We want to go straight to folks.
Yes,
We're not hoping
yes.
and praying somebody else puts us on. We're going on our own.
Okay, all right,
Hey,
that's good.
Heather, you got anything for us?
Some questions from our audience. This first one comes from Diana, who says, what are Democrats' chances of victory in the critical mayor's races tomorrow, and what does that mean looking forward to 2018?
You want to grab that one, Jess?
Yeah, look, I think we've been talking about this. People are really excited. We've invested in, I think, 7 or 8 mayor's races around the country now. We got one in New Mexico. We mentioned the one up in New Hampshire. Got a couple in North Carolina, 2 in North Carolina, I think. And one down in Florida, Pete Kreisman down there. That's going to be a good one. I think we have a great opportunity. I think people are engaged. They're fired up. But look, you got to get out the vote. At the end of the day, it always comes down to how many votes
That's
there
right.
are.
That's right.
That's how
Right.
it goes, right? You can
That's
spend a
right.
whole year on this.
That's right.
So people have to get out and vote today. They've got to bring their neighbors. They got to bring their friends. They got to tell them why it matters. Yeah, it's never mattered more than it has, I think,
That's
right
right.
now. And we know the contrast is so clear
That's
between
right.
the Republicans and the Democrats and what we're fighting for. We know what we're fighting for. And so we got to have those conversations, and we got to make sure everyone gets to the polls.
We got to get them out. So as we get the folks out today in these critical mayor's races, and I was there with Vi Lyles and Charlotte, and we've been getting around the country. We are going to call on these folks next year. We believe that winning and getting the vote out is a cumulative thing. So if we get the folks out in 2017, helps us get them out in 2018, helps us get them out for 2019, and then of course we know 2020 is a big deal.
That's
but we're
right.
not just gonna wake up in the summer of 2020 and start campaigning.
That's right.
This is going to be
That's
a
right.
cumulative
Not if we wanna
thing.
win.
That's right.
Not if we want to win.
That's
Yeah, great, Heather.
Sure. Not a question. Susan tweeted at us and just wants you guys to know that she is working the polls tomorrow at her ward in Pennsylvania. And then we have another question coming from our audience from Jared, who says, if Democrats were to win back Congress today, what are some things you think congressional Democrats would do to implement change and hold on to the majority?
I think that one's for
Yeah,
you, Congresswoman Waters.
What will Democrats do?
Glad you asked. Glad you asked.
Well, first of all, let me start with what we're doing now. When I talk about the work that we have done to save the ACA, commonly referred to as Obamacare, that's extremely important. This legislation dealt with pre-existing conditions, and prior to Obamacare, people died from preventable diseases, and this is huge. And so there's been every attempt to dismantle it by the Republicans, to undermine it, and Democrats stayed together. We fought, and a few Republicans who understood that their constituents too were impacted by, this great legislation, came along with us, but it was because of our leadership that we have been able to save that. And we're going to continue to do that. Keith Ellison and I work, for the Financial Services Committee.
Right.
And we have had to fight to save the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau,
Yes, we have.
which is the centerpiece of the Dodd-Frank reform legislation. It has been so good for our consumers, and we have fought very hard to keep them from basically, intimidating Mr. Cordray, who is a fine director who has got millions of dollars returned to consumers that were the victims of fraud, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to continue that work. We're going to make sure that we implement Dodd-Frank in ways that we never have the kind of meltdown that we had in 2008,
right,
where so many people lost their homes across this country. We're going to do that work on consumer protection. And so in addition to that, we've got to make sure that we invest in education. We have now a tax reform bill that says it will take away the ability for those who have been paying interest on student loans and paying back student loans money. They can't deduct it anymore under this tax reform bill, where we're going to deal with these issues, whether it's education or it's health, it's consumer protection. We're there, and we're going to make sure that everything that we do is on behalf of our citizens.
That's
and
right.
And we're going to stop this kind of division that we see going on.
That's right.
This is one country for everybody. We should be looking at how we can make sure everything that we do helps to increase the quality of life for all of our citizens. Democrats are the ones who do that, and I think that message has gotten out now.
Auntie Max, y'all. That's right. We're gonna raise the pay. We're gonna fight for jobs. We're gonna lower your costs, and we are gonna bring this country together. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more question, and this is great. We'll bring it back to the beginning a little bit. This question comes from Delvin in our audience, who says, "What implications does a win in Virginia have for Democrats on a national level?"
You wanna grab that one?
Repeat that again. I'm sorry.
What does a win in Virginia mean in terms of like setting the stage for what's to come?
Listen, everybody is poised to see whether or not Democrats are, taking the message in ways that inspire and motivate. And we know, and we feel it, that we are absolutely doing that. So this win is big for us. It is so important for us. And it sends a message across this country, and maybe even across this world, that we're on the right track to do the right thing for most of the people in our country. And so this is not just another race. This is a race where the eyes of the country are certainly on this race and looking at how we're able to turn out our vote. Despite the fact a lot of money and nasty ads have been turned on us, and the division that has been attempted by those who don't want to see us, of course, win or come together, and we overcome that, and we're on our way.
Awesome. So, Jess, on this election day 2017,
Yep.
what do you want to tell the folks as the CEO of the DNC?
Well, I want to say we're out there fighting. We've got, everybody that works at the DNC has been out in Virginia for weeks now. We've got over 100 people that have been knocking doors, making calls.
You cleared the office out, huh?
We cleared the office out. I don't want to see anyone here. We're the only ones in here besides these
crew,
guys
yeah.
with us. And the other thing that I want to say is, look, I couldn't agree more, but this race is going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be
close. And when you look historically at what's happened in Virginia, our current governor, Terry McAuliffe, great governor, right? He only won by 2.5%.
Right.
Yes.
And we knew his opponent pretty well there. And you look at Senator Mark Warner there, he won by less than 1%.
Yes.
So we need everyone. We got to run through the tape here to win this. We've got everybody that's been out. We've got over 1 million texts that the DNC has done in to get out the vote there. So we're doing everything we can, but now it's up to everybody. And we got to get it done the next few hours.
Absolutely. So let me just say, everybody, this is Election Day.
Election Day. Yes.
And it's Election Day in Virginia, New Jersey, all across the country. If you have any questions, give us a call at 833-336-VOTE. 833-336-VOTE. We want to be in touch with you, so you be in touch with us. We need you to make this new DNC, do we not? We can't do it by ourselves,
We
right?
can't.
That's
And so
right.
we need everybody watching this broadcast to get involved, to make a difference. Let me tell you, not voting is not a protest. It is a surrender, and we will never surrender. We're going to fight all the way through. We're going to run through the tape. This has been another edition of Democrats Live. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much.